is fantastic. I am Julie Kim from AAPI Montclair. And I'm one of the many organizers of our first ever Lantern Festival. I am so happy to see all of you here on this gorgeous evening. AAPI Montclair was started just 2 months ago by Amber Reed, Linda Cow, and Linda Sway out of a need for community. We, as Asian Americans living in the Montclair area, needed a community and forum to share our collective grief and fears. The escalating violence, harassment, and intimidation against all Asians is a different sort of racism. Xenophobia is the fear and hatred of the foreign, and we are perceived as perpetual foreigners. Yet this is our home. We belong here. We stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, NAACP, and other civil rights groups. We cannot address the racism that's happening towards Asian Americans without addressing the racism towards African Americans and all other targeted groups. We need more visibility and representation for ourselves, but also as part of the greater anti-racism movement. May is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, when we hope to highlight the rich history of our community and how we have played an important role in shaping America's past, present, and future. Our stories need to be told, and our faces need to be seen. We are here to honor the victims of anti-Asian violence and the lives lost to all forms of injustice. But we also want to celebrate the joy and unity of this group and of all of us coming together. This is the power of community. These beautiful lanterns before us will shine brightly and symbolize peace, forgiveness, and reconciliation. May we all walk together on this path. Thank you. I am so pleased to introduce Mikey Sherrill, our Congresswoman from Montclair, as our first speaker.
Well, thank you all so much. It is wonderful to be here tonight. Like so many people, when I heard about the attacks on the Asian American women in Georgia, it was heartbreaking. It was just another blow in what had already been a horrible, horrible year for so many people. The continued division, racism, anti-Semitism, and now these Georgia attacks just felt like a blow this country couldn't take. And yet when I stand here tonight, when I see this community coming out with such a short period of notice and knowing that so many great people in the community, especially I have to say it because I'm a little proud, especially our fantastic moms throughout the community, bringing everybody together. This really gives me hope. It gives me joy to see our community taking a stand against the hatred that we're seeing in so many places and in so many ways across this country. So thank you all. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for recognizing our continued fight for Black Lives Matter. Thank you for recognizing all of the work that we have to do. But thank you for also showing the path forward. Thank you for showing what America can and will look like. Thank you for showing what it looks like to all come together tonight to show people that nobody is a continual foreigner, that our country is a rich tapestry, and that it takes everyone to make us who we are and can be. So thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Take care, and I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikey. Now it is our great honor to introduce Bishop Hughes from the Episcopal Diocese of Newark.
I've got cranky knees that won't let me leap up onto that thing. I'm going to pray with you, and I'm going to ask you to pray with me. So you will have words to say, and to some of you, they may not feel like a prayer. It may feel more like acclamation. After each one of them, I'm going to ask you to say Amen, which means so be it. Let it be this way. Before I say a word more, though, I want you to take a look around. Look at all who are here. And this is how the prayer begins. Repeat after me. We are beautiful.
We are beautiful.
Amen. So be it. We have courage.
We have courage.
Amen.
Amen.
So be it.
So be it.
We are strong.
We are strong.
Amen.
Amen.
So be it.
So be it.
We are kind.
We are kind.
Amen.
Amen.
So be it.
So be it.
Hate cannot stand up to this.
Hate cannot stand up to this.
Amen.
Amen.
So be it.
So be it.
I'll say the rest of the prayer. Creator God, who has made every single one of us beautiful, strong, kind, courageous, keep us strong and help us stand up to hate and intervene in those things that we cannot do ourselves. Keep the vulnerable protected and be with us, your people. Amen.
Thank you. And now it's great to be here with you all on this beautiful evening here in Montclair. I'm Catherine Fong, and I'm a violinist in the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. I'm also the personnel manager of the Montclair Orchestra. As part of this community and as an Asian American, it's particularly meaningful for me to be here tonight with my husband. I hope this Lantern Festival can be a chance for us to celebrate our membership in this community, in this society, and to reaffirm the bonds that we share together. So the piece that we're about to play is by Adolphus Hailstork, one of today's most distinguished African-American composers. It was written for a violinist and violist who are a married couple. Not us, but we are married to each other. This piece is in 3 movements, and it describes the arc of marriage in a way. So the first movement is about discovery, and you'll hear a lot of dialogue, imitation, flirting kind of things. The second movement is called Bliss and consists of a beautiful melody on the violin with a gentle viola accompaniment. And the third movement is Reality. you for the beautiful performance. Thank you. And now Alice, our very own Alice Young, will say a few words.
I took a look at the, can you all hear me? Okay. I took a look, louder? Okay. Hold it closer. Can you hear me now? All right. Full disclosure, I took a quick look at the program. For 45 years, I have been a corporate lawyer on Wall Street, and so that's one element, my day job for 45 years, doing deals in Asia. And secondly, the photo that they found of me is 20 years old. All right, so much for the disclosures. Our family of four arrived in Montclair from New York City in 1987. My Harvard Law School mentor, Professor Derek Bell, was the first tenured African American at Harvard and a civil rights activist. Since my children were half white and half Asian, I wanted them to grow up in a community that was diverse. Derek said Montclair was one of the few towns in the country that successfully desegregated in the 1960s. But in 1987, there were only a handful of Asian families in Montclair. I was surprised when my daughter came home from public school one day and asked why, when there were so many famous whites and blacks in American history, there were no famous Asian Americans. I reminded her of my friend Maya Lin, who designed the Vietnam War Memorial, my friend Dr. David Ho, who was Time Magazine Man of the Year for his pioneering AIDS treatment, and my Yale classmate, Gary Locke, Governor of Washington, or George Takei, Sulu. I had to do something about it. So despite my crazy long hours as a corporate law partner on Wall Street, I gave talks at my children's public schools. I suggested books to the teachers, and I arranged cultural field trips to New York City's Chinatown. And now, almost 35 years later, I am delighted that there are so many more Asian faces in the crowd, and even more diverse community. But I am frightened by the racism and violence against Asians. I carry this yellow whistle, which says, "We belong," as protection and a reminder that we all must be upstanders, not just bystanders. And frankly, I am saddened that in such an enlightened community as Montclair, there is still so very little in the school curriculum about the history and contributions of Asian Americans, the erasure of Chinese laborers from the commemorating photos of the Transcontinental Railroad, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, the internment camps, removing Japanese American citizens from their homes and confiscating their properties, but also the allyship of blacks and Asians, like Yuri Kochiyama, an activist and close friend of Malcolm X, who was the person pictured in the famous photos cradling his head when he was assassinated. This is history that we and our children should know. As my mentor Derek Bell said, education leads to enlightenment. Enlightenment opens the way to empathy. Empathy foreshadows reform. Thank you for your empathy.
Thank you, Alice. Bob Russo of Montclair Town Council has come out in support and would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Julie. Can you all hear me? My message tonight is very important. It's to tell you almost the entire town council is here from Montclair, including Mayor Sean Spiller right over here. We're in the second ward, so we have Councilwoman Robin Schlager. This is her ward. This park is in Robin's second ward. Councilwoman Lori Price Abrams, who is the third ward council member here. And my partner is at-large council member Peter Iacobellis right here in front of me right now. So Mayor Spiller, the four council people here make up a very strong majority of the town council that has just appointed and a recommendation from the AAPI committee of a member of AAPI to be on our Civil Rights Commission. So now AAPI will have a voice in dealing with issues of discrimination and bias towards the Asian American community. We just did that the other night. That'll be announced soon, a member of AAPI. I also just got a message from Tyrone Williams, our police bias officer, who said any complaints about anything going on in this town that are anti-Asian or anti-any group, discrimination, conflicts, bias, report to the Montclair Police Department. Tyrone Williams is our liaison. The Civil Rights Commission met the other night and did discuss issues that relate to your community. But all communities are being given attention by our anti-bias work. As a council member at large and as a former mayor here, what I want to say to you is that I've been active now with the New Jersey Asian American group and the Chinese American group. And I went just about 2 months ago to a cemetery in Belleville. There's a cemetery on Rutgers Street near Route 21 off of Washington Avenue. If you go down to that cemetery, there is a monument. Here's what it reads on that monument, a 150-year-old commemoration. It reads, "In sacred memory of those who gave their lives to build the railroad, the Transcontinental Railroad, to the Chinese railroad workers and the Chinese community of Belleville, a town only a few towns from here." I suggest you all go there and see that monument sometime. It's a very nice monument to the Asian American or Chinese American community. The only other thing I wanted to say, as a professor at Montclair State University, my students have been studying this, and they finally came up with a good role model. The first Hawaiian and Asian American senator, Mazie Hirono, has written a book called Heart of Fire. And I recommend you get that book and read it, Heart of Fire by Senator Mazie Hirono. Now, my only personal note to you tonight again is that we on the council, Mayor Spiller, myself, Councilwoman Schlager, Councilwoman Lori Price Abrams, Councilman Peter Iacobellis, Councilman Bill Herlock, and Councilman David Cummings will fight and work with AAPI to make sure that the Asian American community has a voice in our government. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Now, Serena Lee, one of our tireless organizers who got things done in between high school exams and club activities, will say a few words.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. My name is Serena Lee, and I'm a sophomore at Montclair High School. and before that, I went to Glenfield, Hillside, and Nishuet. As an Asian American child in Montclair, I've always felt a little bit out of place, despite us being a diverse bubble. I've faced racism and microaggressions from my peers, and my teachers have turned blind eyes. In the wake of the Atlanta shootings, there was an outpour of support for Asian Americans, but more than anything, my white peers were surprised. But this should not have been shocking. This was pre-pandemic racism built up over decades of institutional anti-Asian racism that was overlooked and only brought up and heightened by Trump and the pandemic. Some of this history can be seen on the panels over there, and I encourage you all to go read it. As a student in Montclair myself, I've experienced much racism, and I've heard too many stories from my friends and peers. I can't count how many times my friends' foods have been called weird or someone has said ching chong to me. I remember going home on the bus and kids pulling their eyes back, saying Chinese, Japanese, Indian chief, and being called a weird Chinese disease in 3rd grade. I'm tired of people telling me to grow up and to stop making such a big deal about racism and stereotypes. I'm tired of seeing kids in my grade who I have classes with saying, King Wong has the best sauteed dog on everything. And then seeing the only kid, another Asian American, being bullied by those kids and their friends. We need change, and I'm glad to see that Asian Americans are finally being included on conversations in race in Montclair. After the Board of Education meeting and talking to Dr. Pons and Dr. Morgan, I have hope. I believe that change in our schools is coming, and I'm excited to represent students of color, especially Asian American students' voices, on the district equity team and in equity conversations in the high school. And with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Jonathan Pons, the Montclair Public Schools Superintendent, to give remarks. Thank you, Dr. Pons.
So I have a planned speech, but I think about Sam Cooke. Change is a-coming. It's gonna be change in Montclair Public Schools. Our Asian Pacific Islander students will be welcomed and loved in our school system. I can promise you that. Well, I was in my office a few weeks ago, and I had an email was sent to me by a student. The email described a problem, a math problem, that unfortunately did not represent the student's heritage appropriately. One of our Asian American students. It was disappointing, it was appalling, it was painful. So at that point, I called Dr. Morgan. Dr. Morgan called the text company. We cannot stand by. We cannot allow this to happen in our schools. We will do better. We have to do better. Reached out to Mr. Cooper, HR director. Said, Mr. Cooper, we only have 5% of our employees in Montclair Public Schools are Asian Americans. Only 5%. We must do better. We will do better. Look at our curriculum. Our curriculum does not show our students, our Asian American students, what they should show them about their heritage. Does not show how wonderful and how powerful they are. It unfortunately sometimes brings in stereotypes and stereotypes threats. Change is coming, and that's gonna happen. I'm blessed to be meeting with the AAPI. And I have to tell you, it's humbling. It's humbling being an African-American male from Alabama and not knowing and not being passionate about our Asian American students. That's gonna stop. Our Asian American students deserve better. They will have better in our school system, and I can promise you that. Change is a-coming. I reach out to our Asian American students and our Asian American families, and I say, push me. Push me to make it better today, not tomorrow. We do not have time to waste. If we sit back and allow it to happen, if we go back, well, at least I'm not racist, that's not good enough. I'm not racist is not good enough. Do more. Do more on our end, day in and day out, to make it better for all Americans. All people in this country and this world deserve better. It will happen here in Montclair. Our Asian American families and our students, we love you. You belong. This is your home. I will work for you. I work for you and your families. And I will finish by saying this. You know, I used to love this song, We Are the World. We are the children. We are the ones to make a better place, so let's start living. Day in and day out, let's do this together. Let's not walk away from here and say, I did my part. Day in and day out, make it better. Make those tough decisions. Do those tough things. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. But now I work for you. Let's make it better together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pons. We are so excited to have Dr. Kyati Joshi join us tonight. She is a superstar in the world of social justice. And here she is.
Thank you. I'm going to stay down here so that I can actually interact with folks. My name is Kyati Joshi. I am a professor in the School of Education at Fairleigh Dickinson University and a professor of Asian American Studies. I cross over the worlds of social justice, anti-racist, anti-bias education, and Asian American studies. And I cannot tell you how, okay, professor voice coming out. Okay, can you hear me now? I feel like I'm gonna kill y'all's ears, no? Okay, here we go. So, my name is Kyati. I teach both teachers. I'm a proud teacher educator doing anti-bias, anti-racist education with our wonderful, wonderful teachers here in New Jersey. And I'm a professor of Asian American Studies, having published books in Asian American Studies. And it is really exciting to be here. I have a few questions for you all, so I hope you will answer my questions. Can you please put up your hand if you've ever felt discriminated against because of your skin color? Can you please put up your hand if you've ever been or felt you've been discriminated against because of your religion? Can you please put up your hand if you've ever been made fun of because of your name? A name like Kyati, and I know some of the people here, their names, not easy, impossible to go through school and feel okay about yourself, especially if nobody said anything, right? So those are the things we have to stop. Some of those things we can get at with curricula, and some of those things we have to get at through teacher training, right? So it takes both. It takes both. Now, in 2019, a few of us got together and wrote a report on the state of Asian America in New Jersey. We couldn't believe that there's something like this didn't exist. Professor Ron Chen from Rutgers Law, myself, Mayor Jim Choi of Edison, and Richard Sun, we co-authored this report. Y'all, we make up 10% of the population in the state of New Jersey. If everybody has filled out their census, we might be close to 15% when we get the real data, all the data. That's huge, right? That's huge. I'm so excited to see all the elected officials here. I happen to be married to one. He's not a commissioner of Essex County, he's a commissioner of Passaic County. So I know our electeds care about us, and we have to show up for them. I'm involved in state politics in New Jersey, and I do not see enough Asian Americans out there. I don't see enough of us out there. We've got to be out there, right? And we have got to learn. I'm so excited to see what was created there so people can be educated about what happened with Vincent Chin, what happened with Executive Order 9066 in the internment of the Japanese Americans. And I want to give you a little lesson that some of you may or may not know. We are invisible, right? When we were doing this report, regardless of ethnic background, regardless of language, regardless of generation, there was one word that described the experiences of Asian Pacific Americans in New Jersey. Anybody have an idea? One word. Invisible. Invisible. People feel invisible. Doesn't matter what job, what occupation, what age. right? So that, it's wonderful to be here and to be visible. And we are going to have to be visible in so many different ways. We are not only part of the story in the United States, we are part of the story on race in America, where we get marginalized. So here's a little history lesson. Those of you who went to school in the United States, we learned about Dred Scott, right? People know about Dred Scott. You remember Dred Scott, 1857. What we didn't learn, and we should learn, and we need taught now, is the Ozawa case of 1922 and the Thind case of 1923. Both of these cases, I'm not going to get into the details, but in both of these cases, both Asian men were denied United States citizenship by the United States Supreme Court because they were not white. Because we had a law in 1790 that said you had to be a free white man to be a citizen of this country. Everybody here who is Asian Pacific American, if you had been in this country in the mid-1800s, you would have been identified as an alien ineligible for citizenship. Okay? Alien ineligible for citizenship. People fought and sued. Some people got citizenship. These two cases go all the way to the Supreme Court, and they were turned down. And then to make matters worse, the Indian American community, the South Asian community is really what I should say. Some of the folks had gotten citizenship. Citizenship was revoked. Okay? Citizenship was revoked. So we are part of the story of the United States. We are also part of the story around race. And what I ask is those of you who went to school here and those of you who are going to school here, you learn these cases. We learned Brown, we learned Plessy, we learned Dred Scott. I kind of consider those some major cases in the pantheon of understanding race in America. But Thind and Ozawa need to be there too, just as an example. Okay, just as an example. So thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here, and I hope to see so many more AAPI Montclair events.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. And thank you so much for being out here tonight. Please excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not quite as a confident speaker as my daughter, Serena, who you just heard. I'm Linda Cow. I'm one of the co-founders of AAPI Montclair. In the 15 years that I've lived in this town, I have to say that today is one of my proudest. After the birth of my kids, of course. What started as a mother's call for help in the wake of indignity faced by her child has led to countless individuals coming together to take action for positive change. More importantly, it has led to a community finding itself, finding our collective voice, and in turn, helping the rest of our town see us and hear us. In our 2 short months of existence, we've garnered attention from both the district and the town leadership and made strides in areas including town advocacy, education, disseminating resources to empower AAPI community members, and this event to promote awareness and remembrance. Our partnership with the district has brought forth the first district-wide commemoration of AAPI Heritage Month. We've incorporated lessons on Asian American history, author visits, virtual field trips, and our upcoming career panel for middle and high school students featuring accomplished and creative members of our very own AAPI community here in Montclair. Moreover, we are going for and getting seats at the table where important conversations are happening that impact us. But we have not achieved this on our own. We started the conversation by sharing painful stories that so many of us have buried or tried to forget. But once we started, our voices drew others to support us and stand with us in solidarity. Solidarity because we recognize shared values, common challenges, and mutual goals, such as inclusion and diversity. We welcome community members, organizations from all backgrounds to participate, learn, and celebrate alongside us. We acknowledge that the term AAPI can be both unifying and erasing. We aim to celebrate the various communities, cultures, and heritages that live under the AAPI umbrella term. In solidarity and justice, we are committed to standing against racism, discrimination, and bias in all forms. We stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter movement, like our ancestors mentioned before, Yuri Kochiyama and Grace Lee Boggs, who were leaders in Black and Asian solidarity movements, and Larry Itliong, who forged partnerships between Filipino and Mexican farm workers, leading to breakthroughs in the labor movement. We believe that our society must be just, democratic, and ensure equal opportunity for all. We pledge to work towards ensuring that everyone can achieve their full potential. And tonight especially, community. We understand the power of partnership and mutual aid. We look to and support local organizations, nonprofit, for-profit, and school groups who have a shared vision of creating an equitable and inclusive future for Montclair. We are so honored by the presence of everyone here tonight. I want to acknowledge again our special guests from the Town Council, the Mayor, and various community groups and partners, such as Imani, the Montclair Art Museum, the Montclair Democrats, the Montclair Film Festival, Montclair Fund for Excellence in Education, the Montclair Literary Festival, the Montclair NAACP, Montclair Orchestra and Andre Walker, the Montclair Public Library, Montclair Public Schools and the PTAs, the Montclair Town Council and Civil Rights Commission, Restorative Justice Montclair, Roots and Shoots of the Edgemont School, and the Yellow Whistle Campaign. And our musical performers, including the Amanda McCabe Trio, Jazz House Kids, Catherine Fong and Dove Shenlin, the Melman Brothers, Montclair Orchestra, Passing Notes, Tristan Aniceto, and Paul Swenson. And of course, the food trucks who have come out tonight, Ann's Catering and the Lab, and countless others, individuals who have stepped up to support us tonight. We see your smiles, we've heard your comforting and supportive words, and we feel the love tonight. We invite you to share in our remembrance of those we have lost to racialized violence and inequity by dedicating a lantern and strolling the lighted path. Come walk with us. But before we do that, please enjoy one more musical piece by the Montclair Orchestra, and I'm going to invite Catherine Fung to introduce the last piece. Thank you.
So this last piece we're going to play for you is by one of the most renowned African-American composers in history, George Walker. George Walker was a pianist and a composer, and in 1996 he became the first African-American composer to win the Pulitzer Prize. He also just happened to be a resident of Montclair. Sadly, he passed away 3 years ago at the age of 96. This is the slow movement from his first string quartet. It's a prayerful elegy, and we offer it tonight in the spirit of hope. Hope that we can overcome the violence we have done to each other and unite as a community to honor those who came before us by building a more harmonious society. Thank you.
going out, please stay. There's food trucks, there's ice cream. Walk along the path and enjoy this beautiful, beautiful evening. Thank you so, so much.